I took my L, I kept it pushing, I can't break for that.
We should just get going. I think.
Let's go.
I think the key is, this is about us having a conversation as, two Black men in the media sector that are operating in different executive functions, and about kind of just more broadly where we think it's all going. What a great jumping off point, the fact that we're doing this remotely. I think it speaks volumes to the challenges that we're up against, and whether or not this moment that we've had this summer, this racial reckoning coupled with COVID, is going to create opportunities for us that are going to be lasting, or is it going to hinder opportunities? And I might add, is it going to create entrepreneurial opportunities for us, given that we're all operating in a new environment? The playing field changed.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your view on it?
Well, look, I mean, just to keep it a buck, opportunity and adversity are obviously correlated. And, I look at this time frame as a serious point of adversity, but just being a Black man in the media space, like you and I have, it's a degree of adversity we haven't seen. It's not the presence of adversity. So at the end of the day, we've been used to swimming upstream for a while. Now, have we been used to this? Absolutely not. But at the same token, I absolutely believe that we're geared, and I say we meaning the broader we're geared for huge opportunities. The status quo didn't benefit us. So anytime it's a reset, anytime somebody, has a false start and says, all right, let's start to play over again, we benefit more than anybody. Because one, we're used to that adversity. Two, hey, if it's a fair fight, we're going to win. So, I love this opportunity. I hate on a macro level what we've been going through from a health perspective, from frankly, societal reckoning when it comes to our culture and how it interfaces with the broader community. But when you look at the entertainment landscape, it was pretty inefficient anyway.
Yeah.
And it rewarded, unfortunately, it rewarded presence as opposed to performance. Now that it's a little bit harder, I think performance is going to be more rewarded. And, I look forward to it because we perform.
I'll build on that, Pamon. I think this moment of racial reckoning has opened, the eyes of people up to finally having curiosity as to the complexity of the Black experience. And this curiosity, I do believe, will lead to a broader opportunity to tell more of our stories, because we're not all the same. And
Sure.
While there's never been as much of a curiosity about our narrative, there's been a very short window in which our stories get told. There's obviously our stories are always going to be steeped in struggle, whether that struggle is the struggle of 2020 or the struggle of 1820, it's struggle nonetheless.
Yes, sir.
And I think this opportunity for us, I've had a number of discussions with other Black executives. It's kind of like a garage door that's closing down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that action sequence where you're on the motorcycle and you got to decide if you're going to turn it and slide under the door before it's closed. Because I don't think this curiosity is going to last forever. And I don't think that the power structures for the telling of our stories in a much more broad-based way through film and television and the like are going to change enough that doesn't matter. It absolutely does matter. So we got to do a number of things collectively during this time, which is, number one, we have to continue to raise the multitude of stories that are out there to be told into the hands of the current hands of power to make sure that we can tell those stories. But at the same time, and you and I had this talk when you came and sat with me last year, we got to own our stories. And I don't know if you saw what Michaela Cole, our sister over in the UK, did when she went in with her story for I May Destroy You. And the executives at Netflix, and this is not downing them because this is how their business model is, said, yeah, we need to own this. And she said, thanks, but no thanks. and found a way to own her narrative and own her story, and ultimately landed at HBO. And I
Yeah.
think that was such a power move for someone that said, I believe so firmly in telling the story the way I want to tell it, and telling some of this is my story, that I'm willing to walk from the quick and the easy and the good money and the big promotion. And she landed in a good place, but she owns that now. And so it's an amazing time for us to say, how do we change the back end of the game?
Well, man, I'm so glad you talked about it. I'm going to put a pin in one thing, but I want to stay on this ownership. The ownership piece goes back to confidence, when you believe in yourself. And I think that part of our job as executives in the media is to help these creators believe in themselves. Once you believe in yourself, you refuse to sell yourself. And I think the key thing that most people don't understand about ownership is ownership can be obtained. You actually every creative person starts with 100% ownership of their idea.
Right.
What they do is they exchange ownership of that idea for investment in that idea's execution.
Right.
And so, hey, you want to have a record, you and me create an album, we sit here in the studio and we cook something up, we own 100% of that then.
Right.
The day we show up to someone else, black or white, and say we need their help, that's when we start exchanging it. And so what my thing is that if you believe in yourself, you might actually exchange value, but you'll never exchange ownership. The price of renting content out to someone is far cheaper, right, than selling it. So look, if I wanted to sell this house I'm sitting in, I'll get a nice chunk of change. If I wanted to rent it out, I'm getting 1/100th of that per month. But if I believe in myself and I believe the value of this house is going up, why would I ever sell it then? And so one of the things we have to address is not only black ownership, we got to address black confidence. Because while everyone's talking about ownership of content, you got people out here selling their catalogs, you got people out here selling their souls, but they're not selling it because they're stupid. They're not selling it because they're sellouts. They're selling it because they value the help and the money more than they value the long-term, frankly, prognosis of their content. And that's a hard thing, because what is society telling you? Telling you, if you don't sell this black story right now while it's on hit, we don't know what it's going to be worth in 2030. But what is the truth actually told us? These catalogs are worth more. Motown is worth more now than it ever was. But why did Berry Gordy sell it? He's not a dumb person. It's because we very rarely give people the confidence to say, hold up, Mike, hold up, Steve, I got you for 30 years. Why? Because we do a hell of a job rewarding the financial outcomes. Oh, Mike's a billionaire. He's the man. Well, what if Mike was just a millionaire and he held on to everything? Do we pump that person up? So we got to start looking within ourselves. And like I said, I'm personally doing it now. It's like, man, I want to big up the people who are doing the right thing for a long period of time, not the people who do a great thing every so often. That's the wealth versus being rich. We know the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is temporal. Wealthy is generational. And with most of this content, what we haven't been able to do is cross the generation. How many of these faces actually go on to their sons and daughters? You know, regardless of what we think of them, go on Twitter yesterday and say, my masters belong to my sons and daughters. I hear you. That's a great point. But let's look at Black history. How much of this stuff has been passed on to the children of these creators?
Right.
I'd argue a very
I would argue our disadvantage is that the language of what has been passed down in our homes with regard to the value of long-term ownership. I don't suspect that this is something that happens in every home, but you got to remember, you know, as we like to say in the frat, we're fresh off the freedom thing, right?
Right.
We're only getting early into the second century of freedom. And so the notion of, number one, the structural inequities of what we have been able to obtain as wealth as families have passed down. But also, I like to tell people all the time, when you're negotiating something that you created from your brain, from your mind, and typically music or film or other content, narrative, stories, books, you name it, come out of the mind. When you're negotiating to sell that, if back to your point about owning versus selling, if someone is willing to pay you X to own it, they valued it at X plus Y.
Right. That's right. That's right.
What that Y is, that Y is that generational return on that asset. And so if I come to you and I say, Steve, I really love this idea, I'm willing to give you, you know, a producer fee of $3 million and an additional X amount per episode and 0.001%. I've already valued it at some level much higher than that, because why would I give that to you if I don't think I can make money? That's what people are in business for. And so you have to determine, do I need more pokers in the fire to be able to have and accept a smaller amount? It doesn't mean you can't give any of it up, right? At some level, you don't want to be silly and not get someone to properly and efficiently distribute at scale, get someone to properly and efficiently market your product, to believe in it, to be your partner in that. But you got to understand from a standpoint of negotiating what you're worth is that sometimes that idea of your head is going to be and create more long-term value than acres of land, than buildings, than anything else. You got to look at some of the checks some of these folks are getting for things that were created 30 years ago. Some of these TV shows, you know, and this is public data, but we sold South Park for $500 million for the license. That was a press release, right? I mean, so the notion of the value of something that was created all those years ago to the creators who have shared in that with our company, it's a huge value to really take that stake that you're going to play the long game on this thing. And so I think with content, I think there's been a number of folks that have shown us the way, a number of pioneers that have shown us the way. Give it up to Byron Allen, give it up to Tyler Perry, give it up to Master P, give it up to Michaela Cole, who before a lot of folks logged on, I was talking about, she made her recent decision about what she decided to do with ownership of her creative output. And I think they're going to help us and help show us the way. And I think a generation from now, I think this generation of my kids who are in the post-millennial Generation Z, what they're creating now, obviously, they're getting their creative chops. My oldest is getting his little creative chops on TikTok. I'm saying to him, okay, but what are the key things that you're going to do? What are the things that are going to be your standard signature thing that you do? And how do you create something that TikTok's not going to be the only one that benefits from that? How do you benefit from that?
Yeah. Well, you know what's brilliant, man, as well as loving about what you're saying is the most valuable commodity in the world is information, right? And you basically said, fresh off the yard, at the end of the day, what happens is most creators are creative. They're not business people, but the choice between ownership and the monetization of your property over time in terms of a license is a business question. And so I tell people all the time, right? My mother, you know, school teacher, man, you know, raised me. At the end of the day, you only learn 3 ways. It's scientific proof. You learn through what you observe, what you experience, and the stories you hear. The thing about the stories you hear is you're beyond your physical limitations. So if you don't hear the stories from a Mike Armstrong, if you don't hear the stories from a B. Monroe, if you don't hear the stories from a Lauren Holland, you're limited to just where you are. And the problem is we're telling the stories of Black entertainment, but we very rarely share the stories of Black business. And that's the key. If we share more of the stories of Black business, then how do most people learn without the story? Trial and error. But if you got the story, then you're benefiting from my trial and my error.
Right.
You don't have to fall. Right. See, the beautiful thing about, you know, what we've done over the years is we've been able to sit back, see, and as people say, peep game. The problem is that the other people are sharing the games that they don't have to play.
Right.
So while we're trying to hoard it and live through it, we're not magnifying the efficiency of it. So I'll give you another example. Ownership, by definition, is a great thing and easy to have if it's your objective function. But too many times people correlate ownership with wealth.
Right.
Those two things are two totally different things. Who's the richest person on the planet right now? Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Right? So let's just do approximate math. Jeff Bezos is worth what? $100 billion. Okay. Jeff Bezos is the founder of Amazon. That's the majority of his net worth. What's Amazon worth roughly right now? $1 trillion. So if I have $100 billion of net worth, but the company I founded is worth 1 trillion, how much of that company do I own?
10%.
1%.
Oh, 1%. Excuse me.
1%, bro.
I'm better at math than that, folks.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's all right. It's all right.
Trillion,
But you see, though, you see what I'm saying? We would say, right, if wealth is the objective function, the path to be the wealthiest person in the world is own your shit. Don't let anybody else in. We own it. We own it. We own it. In actuality, Amazon would never be $1 trillion company if he owned 51% of it. Yeah. That's why venture capital is what it is. On the flip side, I argue for Black folks, right now, we actually spend too much time thinking about generating wealth when we don't have control. Establish control, then your second order movement is wealth. So the reason why we have to control these stories is because we don't have the sustained confidence that we need, right? McKinsey will tell you, I don't know if there's any consultants listening to us. McKinsey doesn't sell product. What do they sell? Perception of people. Do you know they have something in our training program? This was 1995, bro. 25 years ago, literally, I got indoctrinated to what they call the learning pyramid. You start off being competent at something. That's your first order of business. If 10 people are competent at something, the pyramid narrows. Only 5 of those 10 will be confident at that one thing. Now, out of those 5, the top 2 will be compassionate. And so you hit the top of the pyramid when I demonstrate competency at something, when I then display confidence at it, where I don't need the book, I don't need notes, I'm just coming off the top, right? But you know what? The best form of knowledge is compassion. Why? Because now you're teaching somebody something. So you ever seen a brother so dope on martial arts that he can disable you from attacking him without hurting you? That's right. The ultimate thing. I can defend myself pretty easily if I hurt you, but how much practice do I have to take the weapon away from you and not harm you? And so what they used to teach us is that compassion, right? You have a triangle. What's the easiest way to connect the points of a triangle without overlapping lines? A circle. So it becomes circularity. So as Black folks, my opinion in the media space is we've hit the notion that we're confident. We know what we can do. Now we got to start displaying the compassion. So when you see like a Gladys Knight and a Patti LaBelle on the verses, you saw they're sitting down, how they work for us. Then they Gladys said, man, I didn't even know what this was. My son told me, blah, blah, blah. They're at the top of the pyramid. And guess what? Once you're at the top of the pyramid, then the wealth you got internally, now guess what? Their deals are much better. Because I'll bring it back to something my grandmother used to say all the time. Don't ever go grocery shopping hungry.
Yeah.
Don't ever go grocery shopping hungry. So take that back to entertainment. If you're thirsty for wealth and you put that out there that that's what we want, you're sitting down at the poker table with some sharks and they know that's what your objective function is.
Right.
How likely are you to get it? And so if you sit down at the poker table and you don't know who the mark is, who's the mark? You. Right. So we sitting at the poker table without control, right? We're going around telling everybody our business, and then we're wondering why it's not working. Common sense. Get yourself together, get your house in order, then it'll come. But trying to be Jeff Bezos when Amazon, you ain't got a Mississippi River plan, let alone an Amazon River plan. So you're getting too anxious. And so I think, we got to be honest with each other. We got to be compassionate with each other. And it's not because people don't know because they're stupid. To your point, people don't know because we haven't shared it.
Right.
Let's share it. Let's build together. Then when you get on, you've done an excellent job of this, putting everybody else on.
Right.
When you were doing international business, I got to give you kudos, bro. You were the first brother that I knew that had P&L responsibilities globally. You were taking the trips to BT Africa. You remember you called me up.
Yeah.
It was like, this is going on over here, right? That may sound like a little thing. That's the wealth transfer. I didn't need you to give me money, but bro, I'm still eating off of the advice and information you gave. So I just feel like if we establish that as the standard where you're not the exception, we gonna get over it.
Well,
but
let me
we got
tell you what, it's so interesting you bring that up as an example, and I haven't called you on this yet.
Yeah.
When I sat back and my wife and I sat back and watched Black is King, all I could think about was how this dream that I had back then of linking the diaspora together was really in a prominent way starting to come together. People were starting to see, while we are very different, we are all the exact same. We all come from the same place.
Yes,
and
sir.
I think that piece of art that you guys put out really showed the world talent that they might not have been curious enough to find on their own. And I'm starting to see some of those young artists, and they're not, some of them have been doing this as long as we've been doing it here, but starting to get the interviews in the States. That's what we were trying to do on a smaller scale. Obviously, we had as many resources as we had to do it, but looking that through the eyes of the world's most entertaining artists, and now starting to see how that is benefiting some of these other artists who are coming from different countries across the continent and have an opportunity to be global artists is just an incredible full circle moment. Back to your triangle and the circle, that is the circle. The circle is that we have to be connected. We have to always be there for one another and help one another. And so while that circle could have a geographical bent to it, it also has a bent inside of our industry. I work inside of a corporation. You are leading an independent artistic enterprise. Somebody else is doing their own thing on the post or the post-production side, or on another level of the creative side. How do we all make that work? I mean, Brian is a great example, pulling us together for this conversation and being able to have this dialogue. Someone's going to take something from this, including the two of us, and be able to move forward. So I think that's what it is that we need to be in the rooms, having the conversations. This was what was happening in the country clubs in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s when wealth was being created, coming out of the Great Depression, figuring out what are those gems that we need to be talking about. I mean, I have a friend of mine that we literally have just decided this through the pandemic to text each other tips on what we think are the next stops that are going to pop. Because why hold it for yourself? If you think you got something, and obviously it all comes with risk, but it's one of these things where we've just made the determination we can't be on the golf course together anymore, but we're still going to keep talking, and we're going to find something to build one another.
What I love about what you're saying, first of all, thank you for the compliment. With Black is King, I have to tell you, that was a collective effort where, honestly, I was just happy to be on the roller coaster, man, both up and down. I make no bones about it. I'm like Steve Kerr on the Golden State Warriors. Without Steph Curry, without Klay Thompson, without KD, it wouldn't go like we do. So without Beyonce, without Parkwood's creative team, without all the people from Disney that worked on that, we wouldn't be having that conversation. However, to bring it back to what you talked about the confidence gives you the control to be authentic. So what you saw in Black is King wasn't just the result of what we worked on for that year. What we saw with Black is King started off with the self-titled album where she was Beyonce. Right. And at the end of the day, that confidence of like, hey, I'm here. right? Then the struggle of Lemonade, right? To know, hey, if you need to be in formation, you got to pray someone catches you, right? You got to be able to say, hold up, right? Sorry. And then you get to sandcastles and all night, right?
Right.
Okay. Then you move into Everything is Love. Then you build up to a situation where homecoming. Then you actually can say, now Black is king. Because it's about what you can do when you know you've been up and you survive, you've been down and you survive, then you can thrive. And so Black is King couldn't have happened without those projects. It wouldn't have happened for me. It wouldn't have happened for her. On a practical basis, we had a situation where we had Lemonade on HBO, right? That beget Homecoming on Netflix, which beget Black is King on Disney Plus. So you and I both remember a time where nobody would buy content. Forget about from Beyonce,
Right.
but Black content don't travel. Black content won't move the needle. Well, wait a minute. Now the three biggest streaming services, HBO Max, Netflix, and Disney Plus, if you ask them which one won an Emmy across the board, which one has Grammy across the board, it's us. But we don't have to say it anymore. We just have to do it.
Right.
And so now walking into it, at the end of the day, we don't need your notes. We don't need your feedback. All we need is your chance. And if you give us the chance, we're going to win. But what I want to be able to do is everybody has a Black is King in them. It may not come out in your first movie, but what you can't do is be scared to do the self-titled out. You can't be scared to follow it up with Lemonade because you're never going to get there. If you don't climb that first step, you're not reaching that summit. And so we got to back each other up. We got to big each other up, and we got to catch each other when we fall. And I don't mean that just in terms of your Beyoncé's. I'm talking about you, your journey, B. Monroe, everybody listening in here. Man, we all been laid off. We all been fired. We all been rewarded. We all been honored. Where on your resume does it list the jobs you didn't get?
Right.
It don't, bro. It don't. And so bringing it back to finance,
or the opportunities that you didn't go for whatever reason or the other.
Come on, man. Risk is correlated with return. You paying 3% on your mortgage and you'll pay 20% on a credit card. Why? Because if you default on that mortgage, then come get the house. It's less risk. So you pay when the risk is lower. At the end of the day, if on that credit card, they can't come get that meal or those drinks that we had. So you pay the 20%. We got to start changing our risk profile. Because if we're the lender, what do you want? Do you want 3% return on your money or do you want 20%? Well, if you want 20%, invest in risk. But here's the good thing. The perceived risk is much different than the real risk. We know investing in Black folk is a guaranteed win. So I think to it like you and me been trying to convince the white people to invest in Black people for our whole lives. Well, at a certain point, you know what this is teaching me? Why am I spending my time trying to mug somebody to put money in their wallet? Right?
Right.
That's crazy, right? So now I know that there's a disconnect between what they feel we're worth and what I know we're worth. You know what? That's opportunity for me. That's opportunity for us. So if we bet on Black, we gonna win. That don't mean we gonna win all the time. And we got to be careful.
By the way,
we got to be careful about that.
Your camera went off, Steve. Shout out to the two Black banks that merged this summer.
Yeah.
What that might mean.
Yeah.
For the creation of, there you go, you're back on.
Okay.
What that might mean for the creation of Black wealth. Broadway Federal, Christian Gonzalez put it on there. And their opportunity, and shout out to people like Low Tony over at Plexo Capital trying to get more HBCUs in as a PMs inside of these funds.
Yeah.
You know, this opportunity for us right now, I think we will look back, and history will look back and say, as bad as 2020 was, with the emergent awakening of the historic situation that we've been in by the very fact that we're Black people here in America, and obviously felt around the world with the health inequities, with what's going to come out of the way that the U.S. handled this, and which will be the financial reckoning, which is yet to come, but is coming.
No, it's absolutely.
And for some people is already hitting. But the opportunity for us to rebuild from here and rebuild our future and what that's going to mean, I think entertainment plays an incredible role in that, because if you are a believer that entertainment is both a reflection of what's going on in society, and society begins to mirror itself of what they see in entertainment, you will understand that the stories we tell will inspire the next Jeff Bezos. The stories that we are able to tell, and you can see it already in how people are responding to the. I mean, I was profoundly moved by The Black Godfather. Reggie Hudlin,
oh man,
bringing Clarence Avon's story to the screen put me in a different mindset as to what my career can be from here forward. There's things that he did that had we not learned about his methodology of being the glue for so many people, and how that paid itself back to him in ways that you can't imagine.
Yeah.
You know, getting that call that your house is paid off, you're done. Getting that call saying, you know, you're good on whatever you need. We got you. You're never going to be down as long as you keep lifting us up. I would recommend that to anybody, to go and watch that story and see what it means, because we all have, to your point about us all having a blackest king inside of us, we all have a Black Godfather inside of us.
Man,
you can be the mini version of that with just 5 people in your life,
brother.
To lift them up and to give them what they need.
I'm going to tell you something, because you touched a nerve. Man, you are Clarence Avon. So when people say, who's the next Clarence Avon, and I'm not gassing you, you're that. And this is how we take it to the next level. Instead of it being a Godfather, this is now the cartel. This is the mafia. This is the Illuminati. You are Clarence Avon. I'm Clarence Avon. Denmark West is Clarence Avon. Tymon Taylor is Clarence Avon. Tom Reynolds, Martez. We can go down the line, bro. How many Clarence Avons do we know?
Tracy Austin on here, Lauren Holland.
That's right. We're not just going to talk about
Granson, all of
absolutely.
us.
It's not about the fellas, but this is what the next level is. You know, and I'm a nerd. You know that. Listen, we got our Hulk, we got our Iron Man, we got our Thor. You know, we got our Captain America. Now it's time to pull the Avengers together, bro. Because what did they say? In order to have a next level threat be met, you need a next level team. We got to start thinking of Avengers. Stop thinking about the Solo movie. Let's stop thinking about the Black Godfather. Mentally, let's put this stuff together. We the only people who run from these Illuminati references. We the only ones. I did it on my own. I didn't do this, and the third. No, F that, bro. Listen, let me tell you. There is nothing I have that I got on my own. And I'm not mad to say that. Please, everybody needs somebody. However, the price for that is we gonna put the next people on. But if imagine me and you and everybody you just mentioned, we got together and had a call like this without B. Monroe needing to get us together. Right? Just said once a month, let's get together. No bad ideas. We're gonna do it, boom, 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 behind the scenes. Not on the gram, not in front of people, like Clarence Avon did it. Behind the scenes, I made a pledge. Whenever Mike called me, I got him under the table. And I made a pledge too. When I show up and Bob Backish want to talk about Beyonce being on whatever award show, I'm not gonna use her, but I'm definitely gonna let him know, hey, where's my man Mike at? How's he doing? All you got to do is use words like that. Oh, man, how's my guy Mike doing? How's that going? All right. To let them know, hey, bro, you're not making a move without my dude. Vice versa. You know, and if we start doing that little subtle stuff, bro, I'm telling you, I'm excited because we already there. We haven't fully knotted it out, but this the dream team, bro, in 92. That's what Black America is.
Like
All we
Lil
got to
Wayne
do
said,
is practice,
I'm a
get
G.
together, and we gonna win.
Well, Lil Wayne say, I'm a G. I'm like the G in lasagna. I move in silence.
Bro, like
You got to
KRS
be
One said,
behind the
real bad
scenes.
boys move in silence. But again, it goes back to what's the goal? Is our goal to get attention? Is our goal to get control? Or is our goal to get wealth? None of those are necessarily bad, but if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there.
Right. Right. This would be a good time, I think, to pivot. If there are any questions that we can bring to the conversation. Again, this was meant to be a fluid conversation. I think we achieved that. Appreciate Brian. And by the way, everybody on this chat should know there's a production team behind this event. And it's two young Morehouse brothers who put this amazing event together. We had dry rehearsals, dry runs. They made sure we knew where we needed to be. And I know everybody's doing these virtual events, and many of you all control budgets to do these events. And I'm sure Brian can get you their deck, because they've done events with Joe Biden. They've done events with other luminaries, and then even little guys like us. So it's really nice to know that even in this virtual economy, when the stock for Zoom is going through the roof, these two brothers who, by the way, don't own the Hopin platform, but they're using it. They can help to organize an event of this level of professionalism where you can, and Brian just posted the link, cut in and out of stages and green rooms and DJs. And I give it up to them. I shouted them out yesterday during the dry rehearsal, and I want to make sure to shout them out now. Westpeak.ventures.
Man, salute to you for bringing them up. Like, no, I mean, that's just real. That's what I'm saying about you being the Clarence Avant. You know, you never know how something like that might change somebody's life. And that's why I'm ended on this note. We take questions if that's time appropriate. But candidly, stop waiting on the big thing before doing the right thing. Everybody said, oh, man, when I get on, I'm going to do this. Or when I get this, I'm going to do that. No, bro, just that didn't cost you anything. And that meant the world, not only to them. I can tell you as a proud Morehouse man and just a good brother. That meant a lot to me that you shouted them brothers out, man. So kudos, Mike.
Absolutely, bro. You know how we do it.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right, let's see if there's any questions that come through. If you posted a question before, we missed it because the screen, you can only see 5 or 6 questions. So if you put a question up there, Steve or I will try to grab the first one that we can grab and chomp on it a little bit. Brian, I want you to write in there how much time we have left as well, so that we can do a time check.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, so we got one question. All right, how can we get more corporate media Black people who make solid money to start investing and mentoring local businesses? Also, can we invest in West Africa? There's a lot of folks that know about investment on the continent, whether it's West Africa, South Africa, anywhere in Sub-Saharan. Depends on what you mean by investing in those markets. Are you investing in entrepreneurs? Are you investing in some of their stock indices? A friend of mine helped to start the Ghanaian Stock Exchange. Katie McLean? If you need me to connect you to her, she's very steeped in investment in West Africa. Judith Adu, I'm happy to do that. So I'll make sure to get Brian to connect us offline. I'll connect you to Judith, and we'll get you invested in West Africa. Maybe we'll take one more question. Can we clarify control versus wealth? Dami says that. I think they're often one and the same. Steve,
no, absolutely. And so I can tell you, let's take music, for example. An independent musician, right, that controls their own distribution, that makes, let's call it $100,000 a year, which is a very good living, right? There are plenty of jazz musicians in and around New York pre-COVID that had that lifestyle. They don't need a record company. They're selling stuff right out of Blue Note. They're selling stuff directly to their fans. They have 100% control. There are people I know who are multimillionaires who don't own any of their intellectual property. So you can create wealth by trading off your intellectual property, but you'll have no control. If, we want to use that for commercial, you're not in charge of the sync. If we want to go and let somebody else perform it or sell it to karaoke, you're not in charge. So that's why I said those are extreme examples, but both of those people may be happy. And I think that's the key point. I know a lot of jazz musicians who, if I went and offered them $1 million recording deal, would turn it down because they don't want to deal with those obligations. They want to come out with music when they want to. not have a 7-album deal in 5 years. So I think we just have to say, what's your individual objective function? Neither one is bad, but don't make, I should say, don't make the mistake of overlaying any objective function for the silver bullet, because no one thing is going to get us out of this situation.
That's a good place to end. I want to be cognizant of Brian's time that he's got to run this. And
yes,
he gave
sir.
us 3 minutes. We probably took 4. Steve, it's all love.
Man,
that,
come on, bro. Listen,
you.
Man, I mean this. Man, it's so good just to talk to good people, man. And just iron sharpen iron. So for everybody in the chat, Mike, man, it's just so humbling, because so many people want to get together and talk bullshit. To get together, man, and talk upliftment, is an honor, bro. B. Monroe, all the team that
B. Monroe, shout out.
Please, man, shout out. Thank you, man. I'm gonna be tuning in. Now I'm free. I'm gonna be tuning in to some other stuff, but God bless.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks again for everybody for showing up for this session, and look forward. Hit us on LinkedIn. I saw some folks wanted to link up. Hit me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
I'll connect with you and we can build.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, anything. My nickname is just my name, Steve Pamon. So
I took my L, I kept it pushing, I can't break for that.